one more opening next year. Our very first location was down the street at Vintage Park, which we're still there. We opened in 2009, April 13th at Vintage Park. We have 3 fine dining locations: Vintage Park, Galleria, next to Del Frisco's, and La Centera in the middle. We have 2 fast casuals, which are like more Chipotle fast casual models called Peli Peli Kitchen. One is at Campbell and I-10, Spring Branch. One is inside the new Whole Foods that they just built in the Heights. The one opening next year, it's opening in May. We're taking over the old Mi Cocina next to the Woodlands Mall, where Cheesecake Factory and PF Chang's and everything. So, our goal is to put a Peli Peli in every city in the U.S. To potentially have a national brand in terms of a franchise model for Peli Peli Kitchen. So, it's been 9 years grinding it out for me. A little bit about my background. Prior to Peli Peli, never worked a day in a restaurant in my life. I oversee marketing, branding, and PR. Never taken one class in my life. I went to school to be a lawyer. I practiced for 3 years. I went to UT for undergrad. I went to UT for law school. Hated every minute of law school. It was one of those things where it sounded like a good idea at the time. The money was great. When you're younger, money seems like it's everything. And then, you kind of get a little older and you're like, I'm miserable. I started my life over at 27. I'm still paying for my law degree that I haven't used since 2004. My parents remind me every day. But, you make decisions. For me, my parents gave up a lot to be in this country. I'm the only child, and they raised me to kind of understand the value of having personal happiness. Today I'll tell you I took a long journey to get to this point. But it's a hard day every day. It's a grind every day. But I'll tell you, I love what I do. I take the good and the bad. I'm living my dream. Sometimes it's a nightmare. But I feel like for me, I enjoy the fact that I'm able to control somewhat my destiny. I get to control what I do every day. I get to potentially create something of a legacy, something impactful. I may fall flat on my face. This may be the last location we ever have. But for me, I'm okay with the fact that, man, this is my opportunity to do something special. I'm not going back to being a lawyer, so I'll figure something else out. This doesn't work out, but it will work out. I used to write for the Houston Press. I have a nonprofit called Happiness Heroes. If you're ever bored, go to happinessheroes.org. We throw the biggest prom in Houston for all the patients at MD Anderson Cancer Center every year. Last Saturday of every April. It's now a hospital-approved program. We do a prom for all the special needs students of Austin Independent School District. We were going to open in Austin at one point. We're not anymore. But we do the same program. It's now a school board-approved program for the benefit of those kids every year. So, for me, it's part of the opportunity of having a platform like Peli's to be able to create happiness and do things that are impactful. Those are things that I enjoy doing. Every major business award, I've had the opportunity to either be nominated for or win. So for me, very much still a startup. Even though we've been doing this for 9 years, our space in Houston is very competitive. There's new restaurants opening every day, and every day is like Groundhog Day. It's a new challenge, right? We can't ever just sit and say, "Hey, we're good, we're set," because tomorrow you'll forget about us because there's a new shiny restaurant opening down the street, right? So that's my struggle. So for me, having gone from law school, having gone to becoming an entrepreneur, it's been a long journey. I've made a lot of mistakes, things that I wish I could have a do-over with. Little description about the restaurant, what we've been able to create. This is, things that we've been especially proud of. When the Super Bowl is here, we're only one of the few restaurants that were in the tailgate, official NFL tailgate party on Sunday and the Taste of the NFL on Saturday, because, you know, our brand is about diversity and inclusion, and Houston is the melting pot of the U.S. And so, you know, for us, that's a brand strategy that I think makes sense for a lot of people that I can get behind. I'm not South African, obviously, but, you know, I am, my family were immigrants. I am Vietnamese American, and, you know, very much a part of the fabric of the city. That's the message that we get across in our restaurants. Very review driven. We've been on, my partner Paul's been on Cutthroat Kitchen a couple times. We've been on CNBC's Restaurant Startup. Reviews, heavily into reviews. These are the things that I bring joy to me, is the problems and the different things that we've been able to do. So, enough about me. What about you guys? You know, I want to, like I said, for the people that just got in here, this is for you. Free reign. You can have an opportunity to ask a business owner anything you want. Anything you want. You know, we can sit here and you can keep looking at me for 30 minutes, or, you know, think about things that you've always wanted to know. Think about things that, whether or not you think it pertains to something, I'll tell you, I can't answer it. I'll have no clue. Whether it has to do with your potential career, schooling, anything you've ever wanted to ask. Anyone? First question?
So was there a specific moment that you thought, I need to change this, or was it more of a slow process of, I'm not happy, I just need to get out of this?
The minute I stepped into law school, you know, being a lawyer, you know, like when you're in school, you're like, oh, who wouldn't want to be a lawyer, right? Money's great, prestige is great, my parents are all excited about it, looks cool on TV. I think the minute I stepped into the law school, I realized I didn't belong. And it wasn't like I didn't belong because I wasn't good enough. I didn't belong because this is not, maybe not what I wanted to do. I think I have more of a creative mind. And, you know, with law school, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe once I work, and, you know, I tried immigration, tax, litigation was mildly exciting. But I didn't get to I didn't get to do things I enjoyed doing. You know, I didn't get to create. You know, for me, it's very soul-sucking. Once I became a lawyer, it like dramatically increased my like stress and just unhappiness. You know, I literally would wake up and just, you know, I would be the person like, you know, like the count they see on TV. I'm literally counting like when it gets to, and I can't even leave at 5 because I'm working 80 hours a week. So it's like it was a miserable existence. I barely made it through 3 years. The third year I was like killed. And the worst part of it is no one was sympathizing, and I don't blame them. Like boo-hoo, Thomas. You know, like you're making 6 figures. You went to UTI. You have a great job. What are you crying about? And so I couldn't talk to anybody about it, right? Because like I didn't even like to me. I'm like, shut up. You're stupid. You're the problem. Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you not happy? I mean, I just didn't understand, like, the problem was I wasn't doing something that I was passionate about, or, you know, it's not what I was raised. I mean, you're raised to get a good job, make money, have this great life, and then you get to that point and you're not, well, what happened here? You know, I'm 24, I can't possibly be doing this for the rest of my life. So, it was slow in school, but it accelerated dramatically once I was done. Like, once I'm an adult, and this is it. Like, I actually was thinking about going back to school because I was like, I hate this. I hate the real world. This is tough. Somebody else have a question over here?
Yes, so excuse me. So, overall, what did you say today about happiness and unhappiness?
I say that there's a balance, right? I mean, I can't sit at home and write poetry all day, and, you know, if I loved it, right? And, you know, there's a balance, especially it depends on what's most important to you in your life. You know, is the family important to you? If it is, then you have to provide a means to support it. And so it's a balancing act. You know, can you find something that potentially generates income that you really enjoy doing? And I will tell you, the more you enjoy doing something, the more likely it is that you're going to generate revenue doing it. Because number one, you don't have 9 to 5. I don't have a 9 to 5. I'm on 24/7. Hey, you can mess with me, and he'll text me like at 11:30 and I'll answer. Because I'm not off. My job requires me to at least be responsive all hours of the day, right? Especially in restaurants. I mean, prime time is after time. Right? So, that's the industry I'm in, so but I'm fine with it because I love what I do. If you didn't like restaurants, and you didn't want to be an entrepreneur, it would be worse than being a lawyer, right? Because you're like, no, my wife is like, no, 4:59, I'm done, and she enjoys that, right? So to answer your question, that's a broad question, but in terms of happiness and unhappiness, I mean, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to be there. And if you're in a field where you're competing with somebody else who moderately enjoys what they do, I guarantee you they're going to crush you. They're going to study harder, they're going to work longer, because to them it's not work, it's, I like this, right? And so it's a losing proposition, because then what ends up happening is you'll just be in a particular job, you're not going to be very good at it, and then your destiny or future is in the hands of somebody else. And then you're handicapped because your peers potentially are going to be people that, if they enjoy what they do, they'll be better at it. They'll be the first ones to get promoted, and I mean, it's a very deadly cycle to get caught in. And so, if you can find something that that you enjoy and it generates income, I mean, to me that's setting yourself up for a little bit more for success. And sometimes you won't know until you actually do it. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Once you figured out that you didn't want to be a lawyer, how did you determine that starting your own restaurant and becoming an entrepreneur was your calling?
Great question. So a lot of people think that I left law and I went straight into building. I wish that was the case. When I quit being a lawyer, I didn't have a plan. That freaked my parents out even more. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It took me a few years. What I did enjoy doing was marketing, branding, and PR. But the problem is I didn't go to school for it. So who's going to hire me? And so I ended up working for one of my friends. He had a technology company, and I helped him kind of do marketing, branding, and PR, to kind of get some results or some evidence that I could actually be doing this. And then, because we're in the restaurant industry, I met this crazy South African chef named Paul Friedman, who's my partner now. And, as luck would have it, he always wanted to do South African again. He did it when he immigrated here in 1980, failed miserably for a variety of reasons. But, having been here 30 years, he says, I know how to make this work. I know what the American palate is now. I know what it means to operate a restaurant in our industry. I wish I had another chance to do it. And for me, I was in the right place at the right time, and had the right attitude. I've never worked in a restaurant before, but the idea of creating a brand from the beginning was very exciting. And so, again, I didn't know anything. But the cool thing about not having gone to school for is, one, I didn't, everything I had to learn from the beginning. Not that school's not valuable, I had to go read, I had to learn everything from the very beginning, but to me, I draw a lot of inspiration from our marketing, branding, PR from every industry, not just restaurant. And I think, that's actually benefited us. And the fact that I didn't know anything and it required me to work every restaurant position, ground up. I was a GM at Vintage for 3.5 years without ever worked in any restaurant. I had to learn on the fly. And it was not fun at times because you had servers that knew more than I did, right? I just had to figure it out. But I think because from a marketing standpoint, because I've been on the other side, I've been an operator, I've been an employee, it's a world of difference because not every person that handles marketing for restaurants is ready to work in a restaurant, right? They've just been on a marketing side. So I think because I've had the opportunity to see both sides, how it impacts our customers, how it impacts servers, I'm able to kind of make it a win-win all the way around so that everyone's incentivized to accomplish this specific goal. Anything?
I was thinking like when you said you don't wanna do any more lawyer things, when you came with the idea with your chef or partner, obviously you got loans from a bank, you had to take the risk. Obviously you thought it was gonna work, but did you have any backup plan if it didn't work?
Bankruptcy. We got a loan and then it got dropped, because we tried to opened April 13, 2009, when we went through the loan process 2008, which is when the market crashed. And so.
Bad timing in the business
Oh, the
cycle.
worst time to open a restaurant.
Yes.
So at that point, I had a decision to make. I mean, either I could, go back to being a lawyer, or, make this happen and take the risk, And business is like, I don't know if gambling is the right word, but you have to be okay with the consequences, right? I mean, if you're gonna gamble $100, make sure it's $100 that you're okay with losing. You may not like it, but are you okay with it being gone? For me, am I okay if I take this chance to file bankruptcy at the age of 27? At that point, I wasn't married. I said, if I'm gonna do this, I better do it now. If I'm gonna ruin my life real quick, let's do it now. At least I have the rest of my life to kind of rebuild it, and at least I know, like, hey, I tried, right? Not cool with everyone. I mean, I don't, that's a personal decision to make. Not everyone has that opportunity to say, okay, I'm just gonna let it ride. For me, I already knew what the other side looked like. It's like when you already know what you don't want, like you're gonna do everything you can to make this your only other option happen, and that's what happened. If you go online right now, you try to go like Barndale Hubble. I don't even know this now. If you look me up an attorney, I'm still like inactive. I haven't paid my $50 fee every month out of spite. My parents were like, "Will you just pay the $50 so that it looks like you're inactive?" I'm like, nope. Because that represents a life that I didn't want. So, for me, you have to make that call. I'm never going back. And I made that decision at 27. This has to work. And if it doesn't work, I'm okay with the consequence. And that's a personal decision. I'm glad we're done. That's not over today.
You find yourself using anything that you learned from being a lawyer to where you're using it from being an entrepreneur?
Very indirectly. One thing that I learned that I think you guys need to understand. In high school, I was one of those kids where, I was a smart kid. I played football, so I was obviously the smartest kid on the football team. And so in my mind, not all my classes were AP, and so my environment, I'm like, in my mind, I get reciprocated that I'm smart, right? And then you get to UT and you realize you're one of like 1,000. And then you get to law school and I'm like, oh my God. Like I thought I was relatively smart, relatively a lot of things, and I got dominated in law school. Because then you're dealing with people that have almost perfected like drive, work ethic. I mean, law school is different because it's not a lot of kids straight from undergrad. It's people that, like me now, came out, did something, and realized they didn't want it, and they wanted to be a lawyer. And so now, everything's great on the curve. I'm competing against, I'm like this kid still wants to party on 6th Street, and I'm going against a 35-year-old man who's married, has kids, and this is his future. Who do you think is going to get better grades? And so that was a rude awakening. And I run into people all the time, and that is almost the #1 cause of them not realizing their dream, is they think their shit doesn't stink. I always like using I know not everyone follows football, but I always use you've heard of recruits, right, from high school. They get ranked 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, and then they go to college, right? And I always tell people, listen, that 5-star recruit, guess what happens when it gets to UT or Alabama or whatever? the whole room is 5-star. Right? And so at that point, if he has not perfected his work ethic, his drive, his why, he will never play. And that's the difference, you know, and I wish more kids understood that, right? They get to you, they get here, they get to UT, they get to Harvard, and at some point they think that, man, I'm good. But it depends, I mean, the more they kind of go up the food chain or in their job or what have you, if you're not mentally prepared for that, you know, you'll get eaten up, you'll get eaten alive. You know, I wish I knew that better. You know, because every step of the way I was very stubborn, I was like, I got here, you know, and, you know, I think the biggest lesson from law school is, you know, one of my friends, he's gonna hate me, this on that thing, but his name is Jason Itkin. We used to skip class together. He now is on the campus, on the stadium at UT. You know, I mean, and I'm like, what was I doing? But you know, that's the difference. We had the same opportunity, right? And obviously we took different paths, but you have to give him kudos. You know, this is a guy that obviously, you know, he knew what he wanted. Drive is very important. I mean, you guys have got to figure out very quickly, you know, at some point, you know, everyone's going to have the same GPA, everyone's going to have the same work experience. I mean, who gets the job? Who gets the promotion? Who gets all the things that you guys are going to apply for, right? I hope that helps. But specifically law school, I mean, it helped me learning how to, obviously I'm not very shy anymore, I used to be, so it helped me out in terms of, you know, talking to people, trying to get my message across, which obviously is very important for marketing.
What would you say is one of your main obstacles on a day-to-day basis?
For us, specifically in restaurants, every day is a new day. Right? Today, my chef, he get into a fight with his wife this morning, being a foul bleed, crap on everyone in the kitchen, and we're gonna have overcooked steaks, and we're gonna have missed items, and the food's gonna be like shitty, and then people are gonna write about it and be like, I thought this was a 5-star restaurant. My meal sucks. That's every day. Managing people, that's tough, right? Even down to the servers, right? The server has a bad day, gets into a fight right before, you think he'll be in the mood to create happiness? No. He's gonna be like, when do I get out of here? Why do I have this section? Their attitudes will be totally, flawed. So, managing people, obviously we only have 5 locations right now, but, as we kind of grow, we have over 350 employees right now. And it's tough, to manage everyone. You have different issues at different locations. You have GMs and managers that are responsible for that crew. In the restaurant space, it can be a grind. You have a lot of transient people that are just working while they're in school. They don't really care necessarily all the time about what's going on. You have people that haven't really found what they wanted to do. And you have people that really enjoy what they're doing. It's a hodgepodge. So finding it very tough. With 12,000 restaurants, finding good talent is tough. Having good talent that have positive attitudes is even harder. Right? I could walk out this hallway, and actually halfway up here, I can already see who has a bad attitude and who doesn't. I can just see it on their face, right? And I get it. I hated school when I was going too. Always perspective, right? I would be the guy skipping the hallways if I could go back to school now. Just because I realize now what an opportunity that was. I wasted a lot. And so, but unfortunately, things that you don't get to learn all the time until it's, later on. But you guys have a great opportunity where you're at right now. Please enjoy every minute and maximize every minute. Getting a redo later on is very tough because life happens, kids happen, marriages happen, financial responsibilities happen. You don't get a redo. And so, I encourage you guys to, use this experience to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, so right now, did you just say that our current opportunity of being in the college or community college is a great opportunity where every minute it should be enjoyed and every minute should be taken into advantage of so that there is no redo, which is a tough thing because of financial responsibilities and kids and marriage and other life.
I'm not exactly sure your question, but
Okay, so so right now, did you just say that?
yes, I did say, absolutely enjoy every minute, take advantage of this opportunity, because you will have other obstacles in the future, potentially preventing you from doing this again. So you have to assume that this is your one opportunity to carve out and put yourself in a position to have a happy is relative, right? But having the type of life that you want in terms of economic value, in terms of opportunity value, right? Everyone's in this class or in this school for a particular reason. You're trying to improve your position in life, right? And position means a lot of different things. It could just mean this is your next stage in life. It could mean I need a degree to get better opportunities, right? I need a degree to get more money. I'm here because I'm trying to transfer to a bigger opportunity. Whatever it is, I'm assuming, am I wrong in any case? Who's here just for the fun of it? No one, right? Right? You're here for a particular reason, right? So that's my point, is you guys got to figure out what that reason is, because if you don't do this well, what's going to end up happening is you're essentially going to waste your time, right? You're going to spend 2 years here, 3 years here, 4 years here. Let's say you half-ass your stuff. You're going to get out in the real world. You're not going to get the opportunities that you thought you were going to get. The amount of money that you're getting paid, probably might have done it without a degree. And so I'm assuming no one's, you're paying for this, right? So that's what I mean is like, the worst thing that happens to me sometimes is I run into a great kid and they wasted their time in college and they're making the same amount that they would have made without that particular degree, because they're maybe not using that degree. Maybe their grades were terrible. And so essentially, they just wasted 3 years of their life. They're at a position that they're not crazy about, they're not happy about. So at that point, what are your choices? I run into them all the time because a lot of them are former servicemen, right? At that point, you're what, 20, after you finish this, should be 21 or 24, right? I mean, at that point, if you have a child, which is great, it will impact your ability to go through school again. Not that it can't happen, obviously. If you have a job and you have financial responsibilities, you have less latitude to go back to school at that point, because you're working hard to provide for the family. You get what I'm saying? It's a vicious cycle, especially, if you haven't figured out what you want to do. So, I don't want to sound like that old girl dad or something. Do great in school, For me, I'm not telling you to do great in school. I'm telling you to figure out what you want to do in school. The great is, for my parents, great means money. Okay? To me, that's not what it is. If I could go back to school, I probably would have spent a little bit more time understanding that I needed to do something that, let's just look at the end game here. What is this degree going to help me do? Should I have spent more time interning at law firms to find out ahead of time whether this is what I wanted to do? Should I have not been so kind of focused on money, prestige, all the kind of outside benefits of being a lawyer? Those are things that the counselors don't always tell you, right? Schools certainly don't tell you. At UT, I remember my counselor was terrible. They make you take a test, this is what you think you should do. I don't even know if you can afford, back then, I went to UT, my freshman year was 1994. We could actually afford to go to school and dream. I feel terrible for you guys, because it's so expensive nowadays. I can't even, I mean, you don't even have that luxury. So, you know, for me, I encourage you guys, you know, again, I don't wanna sound like an after-school special, but, I'm just trying to tell you things that I wish I had known a little bit earlier. You know, anything else?
So earlier you mentioned that you have 5 locations, right? What was the process you used to decide where you wanted to set up this location from?
I mean, for us, so we have South Africa, right? So part of the brand, I wanted people to associate where we're at with what it is. You know, so if you've never eaten South African food before, and we were in some kind of dingy place, you know, that wasn't upscale. I mean, people are already afraid of South Africa, right? And I'm trying to put them in locations where they feel like, hey, you know, like at Vintage Park, it's a relatively upscale center. So mentally in your mind, whether I like the food or not, at least interior-wise, I'm thinking this place is gonna look relatively nice, right? So we're already associating positive connotations with that location. You know, when you think of the Houston Galleria, right, you think of elite, it must be special, it must be this. La Cetera, same thing. You know, when you're dealing with a fast casual, you know, is it near a high volume, visible area? Is parking prevalent? You know, different kind of things that you make that connection with. You know, we picked the Woodlands because we're in the same square as PF Chang, Cheesecake Factory, Rio, right along the waterway. So it falls within, like, from a brand experience, what we want our customers to kind of see. Right? It's a nicer restaurant. Do you like the food? I love it. I eat it every day. I've eaten our food. I mean, I can't say every day because obviously during the weekend I'm not there as much anymore. But I've eaten 2 things. And I've eaten 1 thing for sure. I've eaten our lamb chops every week for 9 years. Once. I mean, I eat at a restaurant all the time. I like to eat clean. You know, I used to do Ironman and all these things. So I love eating at Kelly Kitchen because I know I can get something low carb that has a lot of flavor. But, you know, working in a restaurant, you're always there. So, man, I hate working in a restaurant with the food stuff. You know, our food is amazing. I get to eat it every day. So, yeah. And we have pretty, like, well-versed menus, so, yeah. I'll have wings one day, burger one day, steaks one day.
I can vouch for how good it is. I actually, so most of y'all know I have a food website I do as my side hustle when I'm not professoring and not dadding and that kind of thing. Pelly was one of my early reviews in the first year of my food website, which has been running almost 8 years. And that's kind of how I kind of got to meet Paul and Thomas, was after I did a write-up about their South African burger, and you got a new burger coming out next year, I just saw. And it's like nothing you ever had. It's accessible, but at the same time flavorful and different. The thing is, what you'll notice about the food, though, is you see influences from India, from Africa, from the Netherlands and England, but also Chef Paul, living in the U.S. for like the last 30 years, threw in some Southern influences and a few twists on it as well. That espetada that you see there, one of the most creative dishes I've ever seen. You have something almost like a sword that has seasoned butter in there that drips down the meat and keeps it basted as you're eating it. It's one of those things that's like it just blows you away, but at the same time, it's still very comfortable, very flavorful, just very delicious food. And so I can just highly, highly recommend any of them. If you're on a budget, you might want to go to Pelly Kitchen. If you got some money to spend, you want to impress a date, ladies or gentlemen, go to one of the main locations. I will never steer you wrong. It's my favorite restaurant in Houston, and I usually won't commit to saying that in most cases, but Thomas knows this. So. Pardon? Oh, it's live. It's live.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
My wife likes Pelly Kitchen. Yeah, it's more comfort food focused. Taco Landia, you know, the Houston Crest Taco Festival.
Yeah.
We've got people split. So, you know, for us, it's about, you know, taking things that people are familiar with, giving a different flavor profile from different countries around the world. So, any future entrepreneurs in this room?
No, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur most likely, but I might be an entrepreneur later in my life, but that is not planned yet.
What specifically do you learn about the economy, like as a whole, to help and protect your business?
Always operate your business as if a recession is on the corner. Yeah. One thing that none of us planned for was Harvard.
Yep.
Devastating last year for the restaurant industry. We're still impacted.
Yeah.
There's closures every day. I've never seen anything
Yes.
like that. And it used to be mom and pops that would close. Now it's the giants. Like no one's safe. Somebody had a question. Freaks me out every day. I don't get happy when restaurants close because I could be next.
Yep.
It's not a celebration. It's an unfortunate. I want no restaurants to close. That means everyone's eating.
Mhm.
Right now, it's a tough market. Starting with the downturn in oil. I think oil is going back down. It's not something to celebrate in Houston when gas is $1.97. It's not. That means there's going to be a trickle down effect, and it's going to be bad. I want to pay $3 a gallon. I do. 'Cause that means- I know it sounds crazy, but that means our sectors are booming, and it's always a give and a take, right? So, when you do a business, cash is king. It's always underestimated in our field. You have to prepare for the lows and the highs. Not every month is going to be December. You're going to have months like July. You're going to have months like October that typically just are downturns. And it's like that in every business. There's always January for retail is usually not the best time because everyone just had a wonderful December. Everyone's already spent their money, right? If you're in real estate, every industry has highs and lows, and so you need to be able to figure out how you weather that storm.
What would you say is one of the most important things you learned from being in your
You gotta figure out why you're doing this, because it's going back to my thing about like who's competing against you, what drives you, right? If I don't love what I do, that means my mind, human nature, will shut off around 5 or 6. I'm like, I worked, right? But I don't really enjoy this. I'm done for the day. Okay. Then I'm competing against a new restaurant that either has the ability to pay people to work 24/7, or I'm going up against people that just love what they do. And they keep, after I'm shutting down at 6, they're marketing, they're figuring out how to cut costs, they're doing this, they're doing that, right? And when that happens over a period of time, you're dead in water. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Selling insurance, doing real estate, if you don't love it, at some point, you're not going to be very good at it. And that's not because you don't have the skill set. It's because someone else is going to work harder. Does that make sense? They're going to be working at midnight, but they're not going to think it's work. They're going to be like, hey, I'm trying to get more money in my pocket. I really enjoy this. I'm going to build a thing. Why are they doing it, right? If you're just doing it strictly for money, it's not enough of a drive, I promise you. It's just not. There has to be something that at 11 at night, you don't mind doing because you don't look at it as work because you enjoy it somehow, If it's specifically from, I'm telling you guys, I'll give you an example. If I told you, hey, you come to this desk every day for 12 hours, I'm gonna give you $100,000. But for 12 hours, you're just gonna sit there. Immediately, a lot of people are, hell yeah, I'd do that. Sit there and do nothing. But at some point, this existence is gonna outweigh the benefit of the cash. It will. I know it's hard to believe at this point, but I promise you, it will be like a prison. Because you're gonna come in every day, you're gonna sit there. You guys understand my analogy, right? At some point, it will be miserable. Because as you get older, your time is gonna be more valuable. You ain't gonna live forever. You got things to do, time that's more valuable spent doing other things. It will drive you crazy. Okay? And then if you don't enjoy what you're doing, like I said, I don't want to get outworked by somebody else. Our field is so competitive. I can't stop at that. There's no way. That's why back in the day, people used to open up Subways and they would just pay somebody. You can't do that. There's a restaurant out in Katy that opened, and I found out, they're like optometrists and they're doing this on the side. I mean, that place is not gonna last 6 months. Because number one, they're not in the restaurant. Number two, I mean, they're letting employee people just kind of run the business. So they got a full-time job already, so who's doing the marketing? Who's doing the development? Who's doing the audits on the restaurant? You know what I mean? It won't happen. And you guys understand the world we live in now. It's not, you don't get your information just in a magazine or in a billboard. It's not the 80s, right? I mean, I remember growing up, the only way you'd find out about a restaurant is in a magazine or on the radio or book, right? Now, and that's great for the consumer, but can you imagine how hard it is to get our message out? It's so fragmented, right? So fragmented. And there's not one way, hey, do this and everyone will know about it. No, do this and you'll get this type of market, this type of demographic. And it's like 1,000 different, and guess what? You don't have a budget to do everything. So it's just, Any other questions?
Yeah, so what did you say right now about something being miserable and like a prison?
Yes, if you are doing what you don't like for a long period of time, it will be like prison.
And what would be miserable?
Doing something that you don't like.
And also, what did you say about something being fragmented for the whoever produces it or gives it out?
I'm sorry?
So what did you say right now about something being fragmented for the whoever produces or something or gives something out?
Marketing now, getting people's attention is very fragmented.
So you said that if a market gets consumers' attention, then that is obviously beneficial and good for the consumers, but that is the fragmented and that is a lot of work for the market to get the consumers' attention. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and also. And also, a few minutes ago or earlier, did you say that
Okay.
I'm really impressed with the restaurant itself and how we were there, special occasion. And those banners you have, we were concerned about those. And I can't remember what our wait staff told us, like the 12 tribes or what was the concept behind those?
Well, my partner's Jewish, I'm very Christianity.
Okay.
And we opened Village Park without a loan. So that's very spiritual based.
Okay.
And so it was important for him to put up something in the restaurant to always remind us of that miracle. So we wouldn't forget about it.
And I think you have what Peli means.
We're named after the peri pepper.
Okay.
And so peri is a pepper that was found in South Africa by the Portuguese. It's like a habanero, but in South Africa it's in everything. Doesn't necessarily mean it's hot, because you can do a lemon butter peri, it's very toned down. You can mix it with fruits, so not all the food is spicy, but that's what we're named after.
So is it that little peri means peri what?
It means we're named after a spice.
Okay. All righty. Well, Thomas, I thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate your coming.